When Emperor Nero is mentioned, a lot of horrifying and terrible events are brought up. That is because he is known for his harshness, debauchery, and peculiar behavior. But how evil was Emperor Nero really at his time?
Aside from burning a whole temple down, many other vile acts have been noted that were done or commissioned by him, such as murdering those who were dear to him. Was Nero really that evil?
Hey guys, it's Nick.
And I am Josh, and we're from Eventful Insights.
In this and other episode on Roman history, we'll get to know the life of the infamous emperor, Nero.
He is known for extreme cruelty and persecution of Christians. Together, let's find out more about Rome's most evil emperor.
Before we begin, leave your thoughts in the comments below what events from Nero's time you have heard of before.
Now let's start. Nero was Rome's fifth emperor and the last in the first ruling family, the Julio-Claudians, started by Augustus, who was Julius Caesar's adopted son. Nero is remembered as one of Rome's most infamous leaders because of his harshness and wild lifestyle. He became emperor at just 16 in AD 54 and died at 30. During his rule, there were big changes in society and politics, and he was in charge during important events like the Great Fire of Rome and Boudicca's rebellion in Britain. There are wild stories that say he killed his mother and 2 wives. In terms of his leadership, Nero was more into his art than running the empire and didn't show much interest in governing.
Let's start getting to know Nero by beginning at his ascension to the throne. Nero's father, Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, passed away around 40 CE. Raised by his mother, Julia Agrippina, a descendant of Emperor Augustus, Nero's family history is marked by intrigue. Agrippina, after poisoning her second husband, married her uncle, Emperor Claudius, and manipulated him to favor Nero as his successor, sidelining Claudius's rightful heir, Britannicus, and arranging Nero's marriage to Claudius's daughter, Octavia. Agrippina, with a history of eliminating rivals, orchestrated the downfall of Valeria Messalina in 48 and continued plotting to secure Nero's ascent to power. Agrippina removed opposition among Claudius's advisors, likely poisoned Claudius in 54, and sealed her plans by poisoning Britannicus in 55. Upon Claudius's death, she swiftly secured Nero's proclamation as emperor by the Praetorian Guard, led by her supporter Sextus Afranius Burrus. This move left the Senate with no choice but to accept the accomplished fact. For the first time, absolute authority in the Roman Empire rested in the hands of a young boy, not yet 17 years old.
Agrippina got rid of Narcissus, a powerful freedman who opposed her plans, right away. She wanted to control the government, but Burrus and Nero's old tutor, Seneca, owed their positions to Agrippina, and they didn't want to be just her puppets. They encouraged Nero to make decisions on his own, and this led to a strained relationship between Nero and his mother. In 56, Agrippina was forced into retirement, and from then until 62, Burrus and Seneca were the ones effectively running the empire. Growing up in this environment, Nero could have turned into a tyrant when he became emperor in 54. Surprisingly, he didn't. Nero put an end to the bad things that happened during the later years of Claudius's rule, like secret trials and the influence of corrupt freedmen. He gave more power to the Senate. Reports from people who lived at that time describe Nero as a good-looking young man with a calm presence, but with soft, weak features and a restless spirit.
Until the year 59, Nero's biographers mention only acts of kindness and mercy. His government stopped violent contests in the circus, abolished capital punishment, lowered taxes, and allowed slaves to file complaints against unfair masters. Nero pardoned even those who wrote mean things about him and those who plotted against him. There were very few secret trials. The treason law was almost never used during Nero's reign between the murders ordered by Agrippina in 54 and the year 62. Nero also started competitions in poetry, theater, and athletics to divert attention from gladiatorial fights. He helped cities that suffered disasters and, at the request of the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus, assisted the Jews.
Did that information surprise you? What are your thoughts so far? Tell us in the comments below.
Now, let's get to know how and when Nero's vile acts started. Seneca advised Nero to use his autocratic powers responsibly, but he couldn't guide the young ruler to balance his generous instincts with the duties of his position. Initially, Nero disliked signing death sentences, and in 58, He suggested getting rid of customs duties to ease the burden on the Roman people facing extortion from tax collectors. Although Nero occasionally had ambitious ideas for conquests or public projects, he mostly used his authority to satisfy his personal pleasures.
As early as 56, Nero's nighttime revelries in the streets were causing a scandal, but the real turn toward brutality occurred in the 35 months between ordering the execution of his mother in 59 and similarly treating his wife Octavia in June 62. He justified killing Agrippina due to her insanity and her anger at losing control over him. The murder of Octavia resulted from Nero's infatuation with Poppaea Sabina, the wife of the senator and future emperor Otho, and his fear that his rejected wife was causing discontent at court and among the people. Nero married Poppaea in 62, but she died in 65, and he later married the patrician woman Statilia Messalina. By the time the Great Fire devastated Rome in 64, Nero's reputation had hit rock bottom. Exploiting the aftermath of the fire, Nero decided to rebuild the city in a Greek style and started constructing an enormous palace called the Golden House. If completed, it would have covered a third of Rome. Nero was not in Rome during the fire. He was at his villa in Antium, which is 35 miles away. Therefore, he cannot be blamed for the city burning down. However, the people of Rome mistakenly believed that Nero intentionally started the fire to fulfill his artistic desires in the city's reconstruction.
According to the annals of the Roman historian Tacitus and the writings of the Roman biographer Suetonius, Nero attempted to shift the blame for the fire onto the Christians. At that time, the government had not clearly distinguished Christians from Jews. Almost accidentally, Nero initiated the later Roman policy of only half-heartedly persecuting Christians, which contributed to his portrayal as the Antichrist in early Christian tradition. Later on, in the East, Nero's government addressed the long-standing issue in Armenia by appointing the capable Gnaeus Domitius Corbulo to handle unrest. Despite achieving recognition for Tiridates as king in 66, the provinces faced growing unrest due to heavy taxes funding Nero's extravagant spending exceeding 2 billion sesterces. Rebellions in Britain and Judea highlighted Nero's numerous opponents.
But what other specific vile and peculiar acts did Nero commit? Nero got engaged at 11 and married his adoptive stepsister, Claudia Octavia, the daughter of Emperor Claudius, when he was 15. However, at 24, he divorced Octavia, banished her, had her tied up with slit wrists, and suffocated her in a steam bath. He even received her decapitated head when it was brought to his court. Nero didn't stop there. He also killed his second wife, Poppaea Sabina, by kicking her in the belly while she was pregnant. Nero's recklessness went beyond harming his close family. He spent a ton of money building a fancy palace, only to see it burn down, along with the entire city of Rome, in a fire that lasted over a week. Nero watched the destruction from a safe place, singing about the fall of Troy. He was known for never wearing the same outfit twice and actively sought out sexual adventures. Nero had a favorite freedman, Sporus, castrated, and then married him in a ceremony where Sporus wore traditional bridal clothes, and Nero played the role of the groom. Later, Nero repeated the ceremony with another freedman, as the groom, and he took on the role of the bride without castration. The fake weddings were consummated on a couch in full view of guests at a banquet. Nero was attention-seeking, whiny, and arbitrary. He had Senator Publius Clodius Thraciapedas murdered, claiming it was because the senator seemed too sad.
Now let's find out how Nero met his end. Upon hearing about revolts spreading throughout the empire, including the uprising led by the provincial governor Servius Sulpicius Galba in Spain and the rebellion of Gaius Julius Vindex at Lyon in Gaul in France, Nero responded by laughing and engaging in further displays of megalomania instead of taking action. He reportedly dismissed the threats, saying, "I just need to show up and sing, and peace will return to Gaul." However, the revolt continued to spread, and the legions proclaimed Galba as emperor. The Senate condemned Nero to a slave's death, crucifixion, and whipping.
Nero's palace guard, the Praetorian Guard, abandoned him, and his freedmen left on the ships he had prepared in Ostia, the port of Rome. Nero had no choice but to flee the city. According to Suetonius, he stabbed himself in the throat with a dagger. Another version, likely fictional and recounted by Tacitus, suggests that he reached the Greek islands, where the governor of Sithnos, modern-day Kythnos, recognized him in the guise of a red-haired prophet and leader of the poor. Nero was arrested, and the Senate's sentence was carried out, leading to his execution in the following year.
What are your final thoughts about Nero? Why do you think he behaved and acted in such a way? Tell us in the comments below.
If you learned through this video, please support us by giving it a like, clicking subscribe, and ringing the notification bell. Thanks for watching.